Hello.
What up, everybody? Steve's getting a little click happy over there. He's been, yeah, see, he's been doing that. Like, he was getting bored and he started clicking buttons, and I was like, what's going on here?
Mm,
What's up, Chris, Victor, Mark, Brian? Brian, glad to see you, brother. Where was you at last week? We missed your antics. Uh,
he was here last week, wasn't he? It was a week
was it
before, maybe.
was it the week before?
Yeah, because
We
we were talking with him about his he's still having stepper
okay.
motor issues and such with
Yeah,
his.
maybe it was a week before. That's it.
You just miss him all the time.
Well, he brings fun and entertainment to the channel. 66 degrees, north central Minnesota.
Yeah, it's actually that's what it is here too. It's a chilly day
What?
here.
What? That's a ripoff, man. That is
Well,
a
I'll take it because I spent the last I don't know half this week outside in the sun and dodging some storms and such. So
well. Check this out. All right, that sir is what I'm having to deal with right there. You
mm,
see that? 94, 93. I mean, it's 76 at night. Just feels awesome. So that's that's living here in the tropical rainforest of Alabama. Uh,
well, yeah, we have that. They're calling it an Arctic blast for summer, so it's cooler than normal air coming down in the Great Lakes area up here. So
mm,
we're going to be a little chilly, and we're okay with that.
I could use an Arctic blast. All right,
Mm.
guys. So I'm gonna go ahead and apologize. I started a CNC job a while ago, and it hasn't quite finished yet. So as soon as that little guy right there gets through making my little tool block, it'll get quieter in here. But I didn't want to stop it because I need an 1/8 inch bit block.
Yeah, yeah. Just playing with your toys.
Well, I mean, you got the bigger, you got the like the daddy to that one. So I don't want to hear it. I'm still a little hurt about that. 10 degrees here, like 54. Oh, okay, yeah, 109. Shoo. No, this is one of the ones I showed y'all last time that a little bit of style made me. This is the camouflage one. I've got several different patterns and colors. I've been mixing it up, getting away from my traditional just solid green. They're actually pretty comfy. Some people were saying that the material that they use for this type of style of printing wasn't real comfortable, but I'm gonna be honest with you, it hadn't bothered me. So,
Yeah, I like a lighter T-shirt especially in the summer anyway. Lighter weight. You get some of
yeah,
that heavy cotton stuff, and it just gets uncomfortable.
yeah. Well, anybody got any questions, comments, concerns? Brian said he's gonna try to use his 105-inch projector to watch the stream tonight. So that means that Steve's head is going to be probably around 20 inches wide. So that should be
Well,
interesting. That should be interesting.
well, yeah, just trying to think. 105 inches. Let's see, that'd be darn near life size.
Yep. Yep. Steve is rocking some Ventari shop swag tonight, guys. Is that one of the ones you made, Steve, or did you order that, or have
No,
somebody
I.
make that for you?
So this is a trial thing. It's these are the DTF transfer, and actually used my heated hat press on this 3-inch logo,
Mm.
trying it out to see what I think of some simple shirts like this. And I haven't. I don't know. They're supposed to hold up in the wash really well and be stretchable, so we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's red, so if red's it's just bright. But I do like the patch though. It's pretty neat. That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Maybe you could make like a couple of hundred of them.
I think I'd order them.
Yeah, I appreciate you there. I appreciate you there, Brian. My wife is She's not real happy about it. She's threatened to shave it in my sleep, but yeah, we're getting there. All
So
right.
Rhonda is having trouble with Lightburn recognizing her lasers.
Which lasers first would be my question, because some of them are a little difficult to get Lightburn to see. So
Yeah, the good thing with any of them you do have to load the what is it, the CH340 or 341 driver,
typically,
assuming they're your typical GRPL based laser. And once that's installed, hopefully your computer recognizes it, and you can check that in your device manager and go into your COM port. It should show up under there.
yeah, we should share with us what type of machine it is. But
But yeah, once you know your computer's recognizing it, then it should be fairly simple for. Oh, it's an X-Tool D1 Pro. So that you actually need to get their profile loaded for as well. And
yes, I know where there's a really awesome video on configuring that machine. And give me just a second, and I'll drop you a link. The X-Tool machines are a little more complicated to connect because you have to have not only their driver, but then you have to have the little configuration file for them as well.
so yeah,
It's,
the Lightburn file that you're looking for, I just put in the chat there. You'll need to download that, and then there's a really cool video by this guy called Clock Shack who walks you right through it.
yes, and there's also, if you'll look in the description of the video, there's links to the files that you'll need to set it up. And there are times I've heard people say that they went through the process and it didn't work, but then they went back through it and it worked. So it's a possibility that if you did it, then maybe it just didn't take. So go into the description, download those two files because you're going to need those, and then just follow the video along and do step-by-step pause if you need to, and hopefully that will fix the problem for you. Mark, no, I started an engrave with the new Sane Smart 3030 earlier, and it ain't quite finished yet. It's it's getting close. It's getting very close, but this is what I'm making. It's basically just going to be a block of cedar, and it's got holes in it that's going to hold my 1/8" bits for me. So as soon as that finishes, I'll cut that noise off back there. It's about through now. I think it's got like, what's it got, like maybe one or two more holes left, and it'll be done. So, oh, wait a minute. There you go. I saw this question in one of the groups earlier. Uh, I'll let you talk about this one because I know you're gonna mention the whole, what it's made of. So you have this one.
Yeah, I would, if at all possible, you want to try to find out what the stock is made of. Some of them, especially when you get into synthetic stocks, will have some polymers in there, and they might have some resins in there that either aren't going to work well or could be, if they have any sort of vinyl components into them, they're definitely going to be a no-no. That being said, there are some manufacturers of stocks and parts that do provide enough information in their data sheets to prove that it would be safe to do. I haven't tried it on a diode laser though. I've done it on CO2 with a variety of things with mixed results. A lot of times there's not a lot. It wasn't a lot of contrast for it. So if you're looking for like a white or a gray, you're going to need to do some playing around with that. But that's the biggest thing that I would recommend is you really got to do your diligence on trying to identify what is in the synthetic material it's made of before you go putting heat and flame to it.
Yes, regardless of what you're burning, I do not recommend breathing it. So make sure you have proper ventilation if you attempt it. But I will tell you from some materials that I have done that may or may not have been synthetic stocks, you're going to want to go with a lower power setting and a lot of speed. Uh, and a lot of those things too, if you can figure out how to do it, you can take the butt plate off, the little rubber butt plate, and you can actually do a little testing underneath there without having to worry about somebody seeing it. Or you can take it where it comes out from inside the metal parts and and test it there, so that when you put it back together, it's hidden. So just little tips. Not that I've ever done it, but if you start to do it, those are some good places that you can do some testing and not be visible. So, let's see. Well, Jack, I don't know that the video. Which video? I didn't put out a video today. I didn't put out anything on the 3030, did I? The video I put out was on the yeah, that was on the 4040. It's literally 428 by 400. This one over here is actually only 300 by 300, which is small. But the weird thing is it's sturdier than the bigger one. Like, it's really thick, it's really robust. So, but yeah, but they are small. But I've got my eye on one. I just got to get the money. Sup, barbecue bullets. I'm gonna give him a nickname.
So Larry noticed a new laser that at least he watched your video on. Sounds like you might be talking about the Algo laser.
Yeah, new company. Yeah, that probably the Algo, and it's not a bad machine at all. I really wish they'd give me like maybe 40 more millimeters or 50 more millimeters work area, but they just didn't. But other than that, I mean, I like the machine. You've got one too. Didn't you do a review as well? So
yeah. My video. I think I got mine out the day after yours.
Yeah.
And so I went through a lot of different materials with it, testing it out for how it was working on them, and yeah, it's a really nice machine. With, you know, I know people have been talking about some of them with a lot of these extra bells and whistles. You know, the lifting Z-axis and the autofocus and the 20 different safety features. I kind of feel like this one skipped some of those things. You know, like it still has a manual focus, but the way they did their focus tool on there is really cool. Slides straight down, spring loaded, and you don't have to flip it out of the way. That was a really cool thing. You don't, and then the cam assist. That's what I liked, was the way it grabs the module. Is not a screw digging into the dovetail. It's kind of got that whole cam lock that it presses the whole thing to the side and slides it back out.
Yeah, and it doesn't take as much pressure to hold it either, because you got so much more surface area that's in contact.
Yeah. So there, but outside of that, a lot of the lasers, they talk about their top speed. Some of them are getting ridiculously fast. Like, they're saying 54,000 millimeters a minute. My problem is you can run it that fast if it has the speed and the distance, or the distance to get up to that speed, but you still don't have the power to back it up. Where they're saying they're advertising 20,000 millimeters a minute, but I looked in the config. They actually have it set up into the 30,000 millimeters a minute. But I tested it up to the 20,000 that they were saying, and it was actually a viable speed to engrave at. For a lot of the materials. So, very honest advertising, I felt.
Yeah, that was one of the few machines that, like you said, the controller was actually set higher than what they're telling you that it'll do. So it will actually go that fast. And I don't know if it's the dot size and the power, or a combination of both, but yeah, it did have a really good, like, from lights to dark. I mean, it done really good job on that. So I was pretty happy with it.
I actually noticed in some of the engraving tests I was doing on some things, and I had it set at about 300 and whatever. It's the 0.08 millimeter line per inch. I'm going to do some interval testing and maybe some kerf testing, because I felt like I was seeing some lines, and so that they may be really accurate there, saying that it is a finer spot size than your typical 20 watt laser. So.
Yep, I would agree. Like I said, I haven't done as much with it because I've been slammed with one job and one thing after another. But yeah, it's been taking a while. VT Maker, coming from someone who in a previous life was a hazmat and meth lab technician, I will say this: when it comes to unknown materials, it's hard to figure out which respirator unless you got full air and you're in a you're breathing regulated, controlled full air. You never know because there's different filters or different masks that filter out different chemicals and substances. And if you were to think that you had on a mask that would filter out a material, but you were burning something that wasn't covered by that mask, that could be bad. So I would just stick with ventilate, 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 ventilate. Because most toxic materials, as long as you don't let the ppm get up too high, you shouldn't uh, you shouldn't have a problem. But anyway, well, let's see.
There's one.
2.5. I've never used a 2.5 watt. Have you?
No. The 5 watt is the lightest I've gone, and I guess it's going to depend on the type of tumblers you're wanting to do. Um,
Stay away from Yeti.
yeah, some of those have a real thick, hard coating on them, whereas some of them will have just a lighter um, lighter powder coating on there that you probably can, but the lower power and the smaller spot size, it's definitely going to take some time to get through it. So, um, if you could get a deal on a used 10 watt, I think you'd be doing yourself a big favor if that's possible. Uh, in theory, though, I think if
Yeah.
you went slow enough on the right speeds, you'd be able to get through um, most of them. But I think you are going to be struggling a bit.
Yep. Let's see here. Uh, Chris, the one thing that I can't like I said, I'm new to the CNC world, but I will tell you this: to be effective at cutting and engraving faster speeds, the frame has to be rigid, and so even though this little machine's not as big for doing bigger stuff, as long as it has the rigidity, it's capable of the just cutting and engraving at decent speeds, which is what I'm looking for. Like I said, it is a little smaller than what I normally would use, but I think it'll come in handy this Christmas for doing acrylic because it does have a 12 by 12 work area. So, and I do know that I can do acrylic with the CNC. I just haven't done it yet.
Yeah, that's a whole adventure in feed rates and spindle speed, because you go, everything with CNCs is you're trying to make chips. In wood, you don't want dust. You want chips. You don't want to burn the wood. And with acrylic, it just turns into chips to just melted plastic that's refusing itself. So you can get some actually
Yeah.
clean, but you're generally looking like a single flute special bit for it, and just getting it. You don't want real high speeds on that for the bit speed generally. So
Yeah. Yeah, the F1, that's their 1064, isn't it? Uh,
hmm
it's basically a little miniature Galvo, right?
yeah,
So I would imagine it would do a really good job on stuff like that. But I think it's that one is the F1? Is it the 5 or the 2 watt? Do you recall? I don't
I think
recall.
it's a mixture of a 10 watt diode, and then a 2 watt infrared.
Yeah, but yeah, the infrared's a game changer. Me and Steve learned that when we got the com markers. It opens up a whole different area for you. Oh, Steve, somebody's wanting to know a question about your feet.
Well, that's on my other site. Um, uh, Generally, I just find those stick-on rubber, like quarter-inch, sometimes get clear, sometimes get black. I don't have a certain brand, but those are the ones I look for either at the craft store or go online and find them. But But yeah, usually they're about a quarter inch in diameter and maybe an eighth inch thick. Just kind of that domed one. So I've used
Yep.
that on multiple different little coaster things that I've made.
Well, hello, Craig. I think Craig may be a first time visitor. Oh, that name does not ring a bell. Not that my memory is what it used to be, but hello there. Uh, Chad, currently, currently I have heavily invested in CNC software. I have Easel and I have now got VCarve. But I will say that if it's somebody, Easel's easier as long as you're just doing 2D stuff and some, 3D flat. Easel is easier, I believe. It does require an internet connection and a decent internet connection to work properly. But that's what I started with when I first got the 4040, and it does a good job. Hang on, I've actually got it pulled up here, so we'll. Oh, look at that.
Ah,
Let me swap over to
Inception.
Easel. All right, so this is I just finished this job, and it even asked you how were your settings, and so you
Oops.
have to hit this little button here, and it will basically save the settings that you use for the bit, and kind of save that in your library for you. So it kind of dumbs things down in that aspect of it. This is the block that I'm working on over here, and you can see it on the overhead camera. That's the finished product. But this is just basically a piece of cedar that I cut, and it's got holes in it to put the bits in. But some of the projects, let me see here. Let me go back. Some of the things that you can do. These are some of the projects that I've done. You can actually do 3D with it if you get your hands on STL files, and it's pretty neat because you basically put your workpiece size in there, and then you put your design in, and then you can reposition it or drag it to where you need to. It also has a pretty intensive library built into it, so you can go over here and like there's a bunch of little shapes and different things that you can add to your designs, so you don't have to be too creative at building. Of course, it has your standard text, uh, but you can either like import files, you can import SVGs or G code. One thing that I like about it is because I can build in Lightburn and then I can import the SVG, which is what I did here. Is I built this in Lightburn, exported it as a SVG, and then brought it in to Easel and just assigned it some settings and stuff. So I mean, it's pretty simple. It also does not require a supercomputer to run it because it's using internet resources. But like I said, it will not work without an internet connection. So that's also something you need to be aware of. But I also have VCarve. Now, VCarve is a whole nother animal. I would consider VCarve to be a little more advanced as far as the things that it lets you do. But I'll let you know. give it a while because right now I'm bouncing between VCarve for certain things and Easel for the other. So I'll have to decide which one I like best. But Easel, you can like pay for like a month at a time, I think, and it wouldn't be a bad idea to try it. But I do have the G Code Sender and what's the other software? Candle, I think it is.
Candle and Universal G Code Sender are the ones that they kind of
Yeah.
send. They're free, and so Easel, they're yeah, it's web based, and if you want to stick with just 2D basic stuff, I think it's free after the trial because then the Easel Pro is what you pay. Yeah, it's like $25 a month, unless you pay. Otherwise, it's like $233 a year. So after a while, that's going to add up. But yeah, it's a good get your feet wet all in one software versus having to develop in one software and then send it to another, like you have to do with VCarve. So
Jack, no, I didn't run a meth lab. I was one of those guys when we found one and everybody else had to get away from it. I was one of the guys that put on the suit, went in and tore it down, and packaged everything and sent it off to the lab and took the parts of it we had to take into the hazmat dump facility. But no, I didn't like work in a meth lab. But anyway, no, Mark, I didn't filter out a comment. Now I can't promise you YouTube didn't get one because if there was any profanity in there, it will. But that's just because we have to have filters to keep it safe in here. So,
I mean, technically, you did work in a meth lab then.
what? Yeah, but not like I wasn't the reason it was there. It was there. We found it, or somebody, because believe it or not, I actually have worked crime scenes that were in meth labs where people didn't make it.
See, I mean, that could be
So,
a great two truths and a lie kind of thing. You could just tell people you worked in a meth lab once.
oh, I worked in a meth lab hundreds of times.
Well, see, I'm just saying, you got to use the
And
semantics of that.
hey, and I'll give you, for those of you that know Klein, I'll give you another part of it. At one point, Klein worked for me, and he was one of my detectives, and he found a meth lab one time, and he decided he was going to go because he actually went to school so he could help me neutralize them and all that because there are chemical processes taking place in these things that give off gases, and a lot of these knuckleheads will put them in a bottle and tighten the bottle up. Well, it's sitting there just constantly building up pressure. And if you don't neutralize it, it just continues that reaction. Well, the way we did it is we would take the top off and pour mineral oil in there, and that would help neutralize the chemical reaction that was taking place. Well, Klein, I told Klein, I was like, hey, I've got my stuff on. I'm like, I'm going to open it. As soon as I open it, pour the mineral oil in there, and that way it'll neutralize. Well, when I opened it, it did that whole almost like a champagne pop, like, phew, and Klein took off running with the mineral oil. Took off running with the mineral oil, and I'm standing here holding this thing, and it's bubbling over like a bottle of champagne. And I'm like, dude, where are you going? So the moral of the story is, don't trust Klein in the meth lab. He will leave you hanging, and if he's in here, he will tell you he did that. Let's see here. I'm trying to catch up, guys. Comments are coming in pretty quick.
So Craig's talking about doing epoxy fill on coasters, and it's like he's hollowed out 3/16 deep shape for an epoxy fill. How deep could you go? So this is going to depend on the type of epoxy you're using. They make some more purposeful deep fill type stuff, but generally your off-the-shelf epoxy, the thicker you get, the hotter it's going to get, and then it's going to have that chemical reaction to set up faster. It's going to cure. And with that, I wouldn't go much more than about a 16th. But if you get the specific deep fill, you can easily go a quarter to half inch on those. Just depends on sometimes the temperature of the working area and the exact brand and their recommendations. So I would look for, if you can get the deep fill or even like the tabletop coating epoxy, those should give you around that quarter inch of depth. And the longer setup time, it's not going to get as hot and have a tendency to bubble on you. So
Good one, Brian. Good one. No, actually, I don't think they would. It's educational. Uh, like I said, it is a legitimate problem. It's not as bad now as it was years ago here in the South. Now they lean more towards import than they do domestic production. But years ago, domestic production was a really big thing in the deep South down here. It was like every day we were finding one of those things.
Crazy Casey picked up a Comgrow Z1 doing some engravings. That's a really good machine for just kind of dipping your toe into it. And
Oh
I
yeah.
know both you and I had one, the 10 watt
I was gonna
Z1s
say I had the
early
10
on.
watt. Yeah, I had the 10
Um,
watt.
and yeah, that was a machine that for the longest time, I think that was one of the best bang for the buck out there. There's been a lot of others coming out with inexpensive lasers and of course more features, but the Comgrow Z1 line, they've kind of held on with that and ran for quite a while. They just released their, what do they call it? The Z1 Pro, I think they're coming out with. So that'll be their all-in-one 20-watt machine. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, congratulations on that, and welcome to the fun hobby of lasers.
I would like to make a prediction that it won't be probably 3 months, and Crazy is going to be sitting there going, "Okay, just a little longer, and I'm going to get this 20 watt. Just a little longer, I'm going to get this 30 watt." Because that's the way it starts. You get one, you realize what you can do with it, you start having fun with it, and then next thing you know, you got them like hanging places. So that's the way it works out. Let's see. I appreciate you there, Craig. Like I said, I'm trying to catch up on some of these comments, but I actually have a 30 L35 right about there somewhere, still in the box. I'm going to replace my P20 with the it's a V35, but I like the old series better than the new ones. No offense, Acer, but you took away some of my workspace, so I got to have more workspace. So I got the V35 with extensions that I'll be putting together and putting it in here, hopefully in the next week or so.
There's one about engraving glass. You'd like to touch on that?
Two things to remember about glass is never perfectly focus your laser, is one, and two, the least amount of power you can use, the better. Because if you get the laser perfectly focused, especially with wine glasses, you will shatter them. So, hang on just a second. I'll be right back.
Yeah, the glass it'll heat up and then it likes to crack or shatter. So this is definitely a case where you want to find the least amount of power possible and the most speed you could run on it.
Yeah. So that is why it's hard to get it where you can see it. But this is my power scales that I do on wine glasses. And I've got one over there that I did an engrave on. I got like a little micro fracture because it'll get just enough of a chip, because I don't know if you can see it, but glass will chip if you get it too hot in places. So you want to use the least amount of power as possible. And then like there's a jar, and that's just frosted, and that's Ceramark. But yeah, just you're gonna have to waste some product. I tell people all the time. That's why I keep these around, so that if I need to test another machine, I'll just reuse those. But you're always buy extra. That way you can run a couple of tests before you get down to the real deal. And never, ever, ever engrave on anything that's not replaceable, unless you can sand it.
So, Craig, it's going to depend on the material you're wanting to engrave. In some softer woods, you could definitely get a deeper pocket by doing the engrave on that, especially with a higher watt laser. But at some point, it's going to start losing its effectiveness as far as going deeper into the material. So, looking at pine or basswood, poplar, you're probably going to be able to get deep enough to do that. But if you're looking at harder woods, you might not get that full 3/16 inch deep before it starts getting kind of ineffective to go deeper, and you're going to have more variations.
You would definitely have to drop the focus to be able to go that deep on an engrave.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably, if I'm trying to go 3 millimeters deep, I'd probably drop my focus a millimeter or so, millimeter and a half. But yeah, Brian, I do have B videos and a bunch of other just crazy stuff. So it gives a little break between the lasers and CNCs and stuff. anytime you get on my channel, you never know what you're gonna find. Just started using any suggestions. That's a good machine as well. I think you've had a couple of S series, haven't you? I know we've both had the A.
Big jump back and forth between them. This S and the A, they're kind of pretty much the same, just different colors and features. But yeah, they're pretty good machines. And the nice thing is there's some minor differences between them. So upgrading them is, sometimes you can get new module or just get the new controller, things like that. And I believe they sell some of those. So
Yeah, somebody was asking. I saw somebody ask a while ago what would be a good entry level machine for less than $700. I can't find the comment again. But as far as that price point goes, the Two Trees TTS 20, I think is what this called. The kit that they sent me that came with the air assist, the honeycomb, and the machine, I think it was right around that. And it's not a bad machine because remember, when you get into it, don't just think you're going to be able to buy the machine and have everything you need, because you're going to immediately want a honeycomb and you're going to immediately want an air assist. So I would go ahead and kind of plan for those three things just to get you started, because you're not going to enjoy it fully until you get the honeycomb and air assist. You agree with that conclusion there, Steve?
um, yeah, except for I'm just looking up something really quick to maybe offer another suggestion. Just
What
wanted to
was
double check the
the,
price of
the
it.
the longer?
Yeah, the 20-watt longer.
I don't know if it does it come with a honeycomb or anything, but if not, you could always piece it because I know it comes with an air assist, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it comes with the air assist, but not. You can get the combo kits sometimes, but a honeycomb, you can pick one of those up for about $50-$60.
Yep.
Um, and that doesn't. That's not a. You don't need that to get started. You
Mm,
can
honeycomb's pretty necessary if
you
you're gonna be cutting.
oh, come on, you're
I,
the
s- I
southern
started.
practical
Hey,
guy.
hey,
You
I
can
started
start with
out.
a
I started out with a piece of metal and some wire for spacing, and it worked. But the
yeah.
results were nowhere near what they are with a honeycomb.
I mean, it's obviously better with a honeycomb, but it's not.
Yeah. I
It's
mean,
not
you
okay.
could go out back and get the little grate out of your grill and use it,
Or
but
you can get a baking sheet, the cookie cooler things or whatever. There's a lot of options, but
yeah,
you know, a honeycomb, a decent honeycomb, you
it's
can you
well
can pick
worth
up
it.
for $50 to $60. But yeah, so right now on Longer's website, they've got the B120 watt for $759, and I think that is a pretty good all around laser that has the features you might want at a decent price point. We've both done reviews on them
Yeah,
with a couple minor tweaks.
that one's got the auto air too, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, I would recommend doing your tape approach or changing out the air assist nozzle pretty quick.
Yeah.
But
But
yeah,
the only thing that is unfortunate about this one is that the shroud that doesn't come off as easy, right?
the longer?
Yeah, I don't remember.
No, it
No,
comes off.
that comes
It's
off easy. Yeah, there's a seam
it's
there. There's just some screws. Never mind.
it's
Yeah,
it's
no,
just
that's a
it's basically the same as the Adam Stack and Acer,
yeah.
the P and the V model.
So I think right now that's if you want a good balance in that $800 price range, I think that longer B1 you're going to get the biggest working area you can. 20 watts is a pretty good sweet spot to hit for doing both engraving and cutting. It's got the auto air. It's got enough safety features that, like the big one for me is that e-stop button. That's the safety feature I really like having.
Yeah, other than the e-stop, to be honest with you, the flame sensors and tilt sensors and stuff like that do me no good because
Right, right.
mine's in an enclosure. If that enclosure gets tipped over, I got bigger problems. So, but let's see here. No, I have not with the Fox Alien, but I have with the Genmitsu 4040. Just did a video on that actually. It was a pain to figure out. So, if you're trying to figure it out, I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you it's a challenge.
All right. I see this one come up a lot. Uh, how many watts do you think a 20-watt diode consumes? Well, just the laser itself, that's an easy thing to read. You can just grab your power supply and it's going to have a wattage rating on there. And most 20 watts are probably in the 80 to 120 watt range. And sometimes those are running the air assist as well. You add in a blower fan, some lights, and a few things. I would be surprised if you're I would say your typical setup, 3 to 500 watts on the high end. They, you know, you're talking about a few incandescent light bulbs, which we don't have anymore, but it shouldn't be running your electric bill up that much. Now, what might be running your electric bill up is if you're running it inside and you're dumping out all your air conditioning, and by exhausting that outside and having to replace that conditioned air, that's going to help. That's going to add to that bill a little bit. Or in the winter, if you're trying to heat a shop out that's on electric power and such, that'll run your bill up. But no, even on my big 60-watt CO2 with the blower and everything, I running those machines, and again, maybe if you're doing the big long engraving burns for a few hours at a time, you're still just running it intermittently outside of that. So
Yeah.
I don't think it's your laser that's increasing your electric bill. I think it's a lot of other factors the past year that are increasing your electric bill.
Yeah, you might want to check the Freon in your HVAC system. I will tell you this: I run 2 or 3 lasers at a time. I run CNC, I run chip extraction, air conditioning, and all that here in my little old shop. And my power bill is nowhere near that. Plus, I run planers and a 30 amp air compressor. So if you're having that kind of power bill, it's not the laser. It's something else. You might want to check your hot water heater. You might want to check your AC, because those are your 2 biggest consumers of electricity in your house.
Well, and also check the rates. I mean, they've been going up nationwide over this past year.
Yeah.
So there's probably been some hikes in just your kilowatt hour rates as well. So
Yeah. Cottontown, just on a whim, you may have forgot to take the little rubber feet off the bottom of it, but I've actually got like 3 different sets in there, and the reason for it is that Xtool decided to space the legs out like 1 millimeter further on some models than they did other. But if you'll measure the distance between those legs and pick the appropriate file, it should fit fine. Like I said, I think I'm up to like 6,000 of those sold, and 99% of the people say that they fit right. But you do have to make sure you use the right file.
So here's more of a business question. Sole proprietor, LLC, or C or S corp?
I did
Is-
LLC.
This is that classic "it depends" answer.
I did it as
Um,
an LLC.
I would say if you're just getting started out and you're going to hit a few craft fairs, sole proprietorship is fine. You can actually just add it to your taxes as hobby income, but it limits you as to how much you can write off and things like that. LLC is what typically is going to run for most people, and that is going to open up a lot of things as far as there are certain distributors that are going to require an LLC to deal with you and get better prices on products. So if you're getting more serious, you're maybe producing more invoices, you're working business to business, things like that. Definitely, at least having an LLC is going to benefit you. CNS Corp, that I would say that's going to be more if you're starting to maybe partner with someone, or there's some, that's more of an accountant question. If you're getting into some scenarios with write-offs and other tax savings you might get. For most people, LLC for just a single person doing a side business or converting it into their primary income kind of thing is going to hold them over for a long time. And generally, it's fairly simple to get those set up depending on your state.
Yeah, I went with the LLC, but basically because like you said, it gives you a little more variety. Being able to write things off, tool purchases, equipment purchases, vehicle expense, blah blah
I mean,
blah.
and a number of those are still available to you as a sole proprietor, but it also
I
there's
think
the
there's a
protection side of it
yeah.
is
So say
where you go.
there's a cap too on once you get to a certain size. I think you got to move up. But anyway, I went with an LLC out of the gate, and guys, the main reason I did is because what my wife told me to do, and she's ran businesses her entire life, and she said you need an LLC, so
It,
I got an
if
LLC.
if your plan is to, I mean, if you're legitimate, your plan is this is a business, I'm going to make it grow. Yeah, you're going to want to do it right off the bat. It's going to make it easier. If you're
Yeah.
dipping your toe into the water and you maybe need to do it because of some tax, things for certain, a lot more shows are requiring you to make sure you're set up to collect sales tax and such, depending on your state. So yeah, it's if you're just dabbling and you're going to do some craft shows, I wouldn't worry about it. But once you're seriously thinking about this as a business, that's when you look into the LLC. It doesn't take a lot of time, doesn't take a lot of money to do it. So
Yeah, I will agree with Big Scooby on this. I think the dollar store glass engraves better than the expensive glass. I don't know why, but honestly, I think it does. And I think Chris agrees with me. But that is my experience. Is that the cheap stuff you can't break it. The good stuff snaps. So, you know, mason jars are a good medium because they're really tough. Oh man, I am way behind on comments.
yeah, you are.
Good night. I got to start reading faster.
I don't know. Have you played around with this? Not using Surmark, but regular spray paint can color the spray paint tint the frosting on the glass.
Yeah, that's actually one of the things in one of my videos I did on glass. But now you got to have the right chemical to remove the spray paint because I did a video one time and I thought I had the right substance, but I didn't. But yes, just regular black spray paint or primer or any kind of dark spray paint works great. But you just have to be able to get it off. Now, I will tell you this: when the glass melts, whatever color you put on there, a certain amount of that pigment is going to mix in with the glass, and so you're going to end up with like a gray frosting or a red or a blue or whatever. And that's not going to be like vivid, but you will be able to see some of the pigment in the glass because it will melt some of that pigment into there, especially the black. The black's usually what I use, but Chris has a layer, he says. Hey, y'all have met her, right? So you know what I'm talking about. Uh-oh. Stop. Here we go. There we go. We'll let you take this one first.
Honestly, outside of YouTube and markets, so a lot of it is being active on some social media stuff outside of YouTube. So having a presence on some of your local Facebook market groups, whether they're you might have a local handmade crafting group or something that they promote each other, or a small business group, being active there, and just in general on social media, having it's kind of like building your portfolio. So when I do connect with people, uh, like I went to a farmer's market, I was actually shopping with a pork farmer, and we ended up connecting on social media as well. And then he started looking at my stuff, going, "Hey, you know, I got some work for you." So, it's kind of a combination of the two. At some point, they've got to be able to see what you can do. So building that up online is an easy way for people to find you and also reference your stuff. And then it's just, you can't be afraid to talk to people about what you're doing. So just when you're out talking with groups of people, it comes up. I was actually at a this is more of my full-time job. I was at a conference where I was with a bunch of my peers in IT, and one of our exercises was to research the other person online to see what you could find out about them. Well, pretty soon he's just saying, "Well, I got to contact him to make all my cabinets in my next house and such." So, but yeah, it's a lot of it has to do with getting out there in some of your local markets, and whether that's online or in person, and then just talking with people and having some examples. From there, word of mouth will do you a lot. You get a few good customers that you do some good stuff for, and people like showing off what you've done.
Somebody was asking about glass. Mason jar, I've got that wrote down at 100%, 5 millimeters a second on a 10 watt D1. So that was to etch, and that would be either with Ceramark or spray paint. Oh, kind of. Well, Brandy. See, she swoops in right as I'm about to touch on the topic, promoting the chamber. Well, first of all, guys, my wife works at the Chamber of Commerce, so of course, number one, reach out to your local Chamber of Commerce, and once you start a business, and start like making those connections with other business owners, because you'll find that, especially in the custom stuff, your local restaurants, your local caterers, your local party planners, your local home builders, home remodelers, those people are the ones that are going to want the custom stuff that you can provide. And that's where the money's at with laser stuff, guys. I mean, I know I sell ornaments that I just make and then take to the show and sell already made. And I make a little bit of money just to keep the machines going and have fun doing it, because I'll just create a design, I'll make it, and I'll take it and sell it for $5 or $10, make a little money off of it. But the money, the real money, is in weddings, wedding venues, charcuterie boards for caterers when they go to cater weddings. The decorative stuff inside some of these shops, especially where I'm at. Everybody wants to be, they want this rustic kind of farmhouse look, and that's stuff I can do. So try to get in with the chamber, get in with your local organizations. I'm a member of our local Chamber of Commerce, which of course I've got to be. Brandy won't let me not be. I'm also a member of our Merchants Association of Chilton County, which is basically made up of, I don't know how many businesses, but it's a whole bunch of businesses all over the county. And so those guys will call me. I've got a caterer that I make things for. I've got 2 or 3 venues that refer me when people want, like when they're having a wedding and they want a sign that says, this family this way, this family that way, to stick up at the wedding. These venues will tell people, hey, go talk to the Clack Shack. He can make that for you. This is some of the stuff he's made us, and they got stuff all over the place that I've already made them. So that's how it gets out there. Word of mouth in your local area, unless you're trying to really crank out some stuff and you got a bunch of employees, you can keep yourself working just in your community, word of mouth. That's how mine started. And I started out with nothing but a Facebook page, and then it spun into YouTube, and now it's got to where I got stuff stacked up over there, and I got jobs on the board I can't get caught up to, so it's getting out of hand. But yes, that would be my recommendations. Networking, guys. It's just like anything else. Anybody that's ever been to a business conference of any kind of business, they tell you networking is where it's at. Whether it be IT, whether it be law enforcement, whether it be sales, networking, making those connections. That's what it's all about. But let me see what I missed out on. Just one thing that I told him to do. Okay. Death Ninja. I missed something. Yeah, Death Ninja. It's pretty much lasers, woodworking, CNC, roasting clack, and Steve's beard. Those are the main topics. And tonight, Steve's feet. That's also been a topic tonight.
All right. Now you're just trolling.
How did I come up with the Clack Shack? Well, it used to be a shack, and everybody's always called me Clack. And so it was my shack, so Clack Shack. But literally, guys, this used to be a pole barn. Like, this was dirt floor. There was a root right here that I used to trip over every time I would try to walk around my little workbench, because I had one table right in the middle, the tractor parked here, a lawnmower and my little buggy parked over there, and there was a dirt floor, and I would trip over this root and fall against the tire of the tractor every time I come around through here. And my wife, I kid you not. Yeah.
I was gonna say it. I'm glad Brandy did.
Hey, it may be a shack, but it's a high-tech shack now, huh?
Yeah, well, we know how you do with roots. You have a vendetta against them, so.
but but anyway, I used to just tell people because they're like, "What'd you do this weekend?" I was like, "I was out in the shack working," and so we just called it the Clack Shack. And believe it or not, there's a sign over the front door out there that I did with a router, like rare, not CNC router, but router that says the Clack Shack. And I didn't even know what a CNC was at the time I did that. But after I made that, I was like, there's got to be a better way because I want to make signs for my shop, but there's got to be a better way. And so that's when I got into lasers, and then blah 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 blah. That was like what 2.5 years ago. So, John, she's already trying to take this one. She's already like wanting me to make a She-Shack sign to go outside. So,
Well, yeah, no, some of those old outbuildings do make some nice little workshops if you put some time into it and such. I've we kind of occasionally browse the listings around here to see what there's out of town just a little ways, and one came up today and it has this old barn, but it's got a new metal roof on it, and it could use some paint, but they already have a newer concrete floor on the inside, and I'm just looking at it going, oh, look at the opportunity in there. But,
yeah,
you know,
you're thinking there could be a Steve Shack in the future.
yeah.
Let me find a couple of pictures. I've got some pictures from when I was fixing this place up. So give me just a second. I'm gonna be away from comments for a second.
So, so barbecue bullets and big rigs. You haven't come up with a shortened name for that yet. Um, is asking about when the customer provides product and a file, what he would charge for machine time. So you got to be careful on this. First off, just because they provide the file doesn't mean it's ready to cut. Now, in some cases, it's a drag drop, do a few things, not a big deal. But I've had things where people provide the file or the image or whatnot, and I might spend a good hour prepping that. And if you're in the business of doing this, you do want to factor in your time for that. But I did this recently. A friend of mine, and I dropped a video on it midweek. I did a CNC engrave on or on a bourbon barrel lid, and I had actually done this one before, so I didn't charge a whole lot of setup time, but I still had some setup in just confirming everything and double checking the distance of what would work on this specific bourbon barrel. So I generally will state a $20 to $25 setup fee. And then if they send me something that's just unusable, I'll go back to them and say, okay, well, this isn't going to work and we need to talk about it. But at that point, depending on my machine, I do try to come up with a rate, and you want to figure in, roughly the wear and tear of your machine, maybe your electric cost, and then, what it really costs you to run the machine, and then, a little percentage above that. So for a lot of what I do is I end up at um, about $1 a minute on some of my stuff. So the bourbon barrel lid that I did, it took about 20 minutes to engrave, and I had a couple other things with it. Ended up making $50 on that one, as far as the cost to the customer. It took me about an hour of my time to do it though, because there's the setup, and then there's also the cleanup. So after it did the carve, because that was kind of an unknown, tougher material, there were some just little frayed fuzzies and such. I had to take a wire brush in and clean it out. So you got your setup, your runtime, and then any sort of cleanup in there, and that's where we were all happy with it. So
Yep. All right. I found a photo. This is for those of y'all that are asking. Y'all have seen the Clack Shack because it's on like every video I do. It's in the intro, and y'all can see what the inside looks like. Okay, this is going to be the Clack Shack from 2020. That was when I first got my concrete slab poured, and I was happy. So I took a picture of it, put it on Facebook. That was what it looked like prior to the slab. Well, just as I got the slab poured. But yeah, so that's why it got its name, guys. Right there. That's what it used to look like. So now you know. The more, what is that? What is that thing? The more you know. Now you
yeah,
know.
um, Big Scooby, flat fee or charge per minute. Sometimes it's going to be one or the other. Some of them, if you did a minute and it only takes your machine 3 minutes to do, obviously you're going to be like, well, that isn't worth my time. And maybe you want to come up with a flat fee. On your setup, again, it might be really fast. It might take longer. That's going to be something that you're going to have to work out yourself with some of your workflow and time, what works out best for you, and also the market you're in. If this is something, there's a lot of people doing it and you're competing for others, you might be pulling back on some of your setup fees and your machine time a little bit if you still want the work. Whereas if it's a specialty thing you do, then charge your time as you see fit. And if they want it, they'll pay it. So I've done both. I've sometimes just said, yeah, give me this much and I'll do it. But sometimes those things are like, yeah, I can run it on the side while I'm doing these other things as well, and I don't have to like monitor it. When it's kind of a unique item though that I can't replace per se, or it's harder to replace, because if I had one of these bourbon barrels I did that the bit broke mid carve, and so I had to fix it, and so really it meant sanding down what I had already carved, reburning the bourbon lid because they wanted that look, and then rerunning it. So obviously I wasn't making my money on that, but that's why I wasn't going to be leaving this one running by itself while doing something else and just passively paying attention to it.
Yup. Someone's getting all kind of Etsy traffic. Well, Brian, it actually had a few poles right down the middle when I started. I had to do some retrofitting. I can't find any older pictures, but let's see here. Yeah, I use that 4.9 millimeter. It's 4.5 to 4.9 for that file for the Biduke. But now you can resize it in Lightburn, but that's not always easy. I pretty much, when I first started doing this, my rule of thumb was like 15, 25, or 50 for engraves. That was, that's how I got started. It was either $15 for something small, 25 for something about that big, and 50 for something about that big. I mean, that's how my system went.
Well, I've almost had to start instituting the whole thing of like it's $25 just to do it. It's $35 if you tell me how to do it, and it's $50 if you sit here and watch me do it.
Greg, that would depend on what kind of critters you're talking about. I have Fluffy, Callie, and Tiger, which Tiger y'all probably don't see very often unless you just see her pass through a video. So I got three cats, and there is a cat door over here that allows the cats to get into the shop. And they do a pretty good job of keeping down the rodent population, lizards and snakes. They don't, however, do a real good job of insects. Now, George just came recently to live here, and George is a big toad that goes out front and hunts every night. He eats a lot of the bugs, and so I do spray in here to try to kill spiders, because as many of you probably seen in my videos, I have like little baby tarantulas that live out here sometimes. See, yeah, Brady said huge spiders. So I do have to kill spiders, because I haven't found anything that's effective against spiders more so than a 10.5 double wide shoe. It seems pretty effective. I got one the other day. Brandy was out here, and I have one. I swear it looked like a tarantula, and she saw it and pointed it out. But I found some more pictures. I'll share these right quick. That is some original Clack Shack work right there, guys. That was done with a jigsaw and a router off of a piece of wood that I cut on the sawmill. There you go, right there. So that is the original Clack Shack sign that I made back in, I don't know, 2020. This is what it used to look like in here about 2021 or 2020 or so. There is Callie and one of the other cats. That was the wall when I first put the door in the wall in. And that's what the outside looked like. So there you go. From that all the way over to that, and I did the work myself back during COVID. So there you go.
It works well to keep the insects out of your shop.
Keeping the door shut.
Some of them still get in there. No, a good deep freeze winter.
We don't have those here. We don't have those here. We'll have mosquitoes in December. I mean, it doesn't get like that around here. Oh, bird eating spiders. Yeah, we don't have any. I don't know. I don't guess I got any bird eating spiders over here, Chris. Uh, Sometimes I feel like I do. Oh, wait a minute. Somebody using transfer tape. I don't know what kind of transfer tape it was. The stuff I use works pretty well. I think that depends on what kind it is.
So yeah, it's going to depend a couple of things. Um, how smooth your surface is, and if you can kind of work down the transfer tape, like take a credit card or something, and just really work that tape down. That tends to help a lot.
Yeah, Robert, I do not ship. That's the one thing that I refuse to do right now because I'm not retired yet. That keeps my workload down. Is that I don't ship physical products. I'll ship files, of course, but not physical products unless it's like a really, really big exception. So, what about
Um,
you, Steve?
yeah, I've shipped a number of things, and very rarely have I had issues. I haven't worked on anything completely irreplaceable. So um, most of the most of the shipping services I use, even just straight through PayPal, but I use Pirate Ship as well as the built-in Etsy shipping stuff. Pretty much those will automatically add um, insurance onto your shipments, and so it's there. That being said, it's not always worth the hassle to file the claim. Um, and a lot of times I will just ship out a replacement item. Um, of course, that's definitely going to depend on what it was. But a lot of the things are things that I can quickly remake or I have, more on hand. I sell those lens kits. I've sold hundreds of them. I've probably had only two or three maybe go missing in shipment. And more often than not, I will just send out another package, and if the other one shows up, so be it. But the customer's happy, and I'm out a few dollars extra. But that's kind of the cost of doing business, is taking care of your customers and such. But as far as the insurance thing, yeah, I do generally make sure that it is added on to the shipping when I purchase it. So
Yeah, this is the transfer tape I use. It doesn't have a name brand in it. But this is the stuff that I just found for the CNC. This stuff works great for CNCs. Uh, I haven't tried it for lasers. I probably should try it for lasers, see how well it works.
I want to check what it's made out of first.
But yeah, this stuff works. Or a mask. It works really good for CNCs. I've got a link. I ordered on Amazon, but this is the transfer tape that I use for lasers. And like I said, I don't huff it, so don't do that. But but it works really well, and it doesn't leave a lot of burn. Uh, yeah, Jeff. I have metalworking capabilities in here too. I'm not really great at it, but I have welded a few things. It may be is it vinyl based?
I think it might be.
Might not want to use that on a laser then.
Yeah.
Jim, well, I hope you were asleep for your injection because I got one of those and it was not a ride I want to take again because I was awake for it. But I think I'm going to wind up having another one because mine's not completely gone yet. But hopefully yours will straighten out. We have similar ailments apparently, which is not as bad tonight as it's been a bit. I broke that other stool I had. I'm not too sure that stool wasn't causing it. It broke. It pinched me on the rear. The plastic seat broke, and then it like opened up, and when I went to raise up, it pinched my leg. Yeah, they didn't give me anything for pain, Jim. That was not fun. All right, folks. Questions, comments, concerns, jokes about Steve. Anybody want to see pictures of his feet? Brian?
I was just gonna say, do I have to share pictures of my my shop build now too?
Sure. Yours is fancy though.
Wow, it's different.
See, yours is a shop. Yours is not a shack. Like, I mean, it's yours was actually like you put up walls and put in insulation. Ammo cans with a 10 watt. Yes, you can. You're gonna have to go a lot slower though. So, and you're gonna want to do some testing. That's the problem. Is everything ever to get the best results? You've always got to test, and it just ranges from machine to machine, from ammo can to ammo can. I will tell you this: I have found that ammo cans tend to have a very inconsistent coating, so it'll be thicker on one side than the other, and so it may look really good on this side and not as good on that side. So you just about got to always overcook those things to get them to look right. Yeah, Brian said your buddy recommends a $600 stool. Hey, I got a $3 stool. Made that one.
You know, if a $600 stool will save me some back pain and a doctor's visit or two, might be worth it.
Hey, I'm not gonna laugh. I was looking at stools today, and I did see some I liked.
Yeah, yeah. So
There you go, right there. Diode lasers. You can do it with marking spray or something, but it's not gonna have as good of results as you can with a CO2.
yeah, if you've got a CO2, I would just jump straight to that as far as clear acrylic, and there's you really want to get the cast acrylic. The extruded stuff, you're going to get weird lines. You're not going to get as smooth of frosting on it as you will with the extruded. Just it's almost like it has a grain to it, just the way it's made. So definitely look for cast acrylic, and then do your grid.
There you go. You opened that can of worms. Hey, you know what I just thought about though? I could do a video, the history of the Clack Shack, co-starring Brandy. It could be like from like before it was a thing all the way up to now. Like when I get caught up and get bored, I'll do that. I could actually go back and look at some of. Well, no, Google ain't gonna be able to see up here. I don't think. I can go back and look at some of the Google Street View, but I don't know that you can see up here from the road. Da, 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 da. Try to catch up on comments here. Well, she's claiming she's going to take it over when I build me another one, because I'm threatening to build another one. Just made my inventory question about what?
There you go. Engraving pictures. What's the best DPI settings? Should it be the same in Lightburn as the actual picture? Some say it should be double. Some say less. Well, it's going to be.
It depends.
Well, it's going to depend a little bit. I mean, obviously, you don't want to. If you're starting with a photo that has a low DPI and you try to put a higher DPI on it, it's not going to work that great. But your DPI is also going to really depend on the laser you're using and its focus spot. A lot of them are touting anywhere from Well, if you get down to the 5 watt lasers, they're even down about 0.5, zero 0.6 or is it 0.05, 0.06 millimeters. But typically they're going to be like 0.1 ish is where they're actually burning at in the 10 to 20 watt lasers. So again, anything bigger than that, you're going to be having overlapping DPIs in your setup. So you can run an interval test to kind of get an idea of your lasers overlap and what your lines per inch should be there. But then, yeah, looking at your photo, you want to start with something that's a little bit higher and work down from there to get get the balance there. But I've also noticed in some lowering the DPI from the exact, like if I'm going for 0.08 because that's the focus spot of my laser, I've actually gotten some better engraves bringing that down to about 0.1. So it'd be like going from, what is it, like 311 down to about 280, 250 or so. So some of it takes a little bit of playing with that to get there. And then it's also going to depend on the type of, the mode you use as well. Some of those have a finer point and you can get a better detail out of them. Others not so much, and you're just spending extra time. So,
yeah,
I don't know that really answered a whole lot, but the best thing I would say that you should do is try to figure out what is the actual lines per inch or the DPI that your laser can do, and that's going to be kind of your baseline to start from. You can work up a little higher from that or a little bit lower from that to see how it changes.
yeah. For most of your 10 watt to 20 watt machines, anything higher than 300, you're not going to be able to do. So typically, I'll run 300. But also, it's going to depend on your material, because some materials, no matter what you run your DPI, you're not going to get the full effect of that DPI. Like with large grain wood, like cedar or poplar that has like a larger fibers, uh, it's not gonna take. Now I'll tell you, MDF I think does probably the best at like acquiring as much DPI as you can, because of the way it's like basically sawdust put together.
Yeah, MDF's a pretty good one. Occasionally, you can get a really clear, basswood plywood or even basswood solid wood. But I would agree. MDF, you get a pretty consistent surface to work with, and there's not a lot of grain to it.
Brian, that's called diverting. When we posed the question, I could tell that Steve did not want to answer it, so I changed the subject. That's a tactic that we use in interviewing people. I diverted the attention away from Steve as he hesitated to answer that question for you.
Honestly, I don't remember what it was.
They asked if you was going to do pictures of your shop build
Oh,
tonight, and you just
oh,
you kind of like was like,
I
well,
was
I
I was
would, but I
looking.
don't have the pictures right now.
Yeah, I'm like I was looking for them. I'm like, I don't know, what do I even have? I know I've got some out there, but
Yeah, what's
that'd
it?
be a. I
But
actually
that
have
was
quite a few of my current shop build. Just it's good to
yeah,
have. Anytime I'm doing something like this, I try to take a bunch of photos because then you can always look back and go, "Oh yeah, that's in there. Watch out for that." You
yeah.
know,
It's really handy when you're burying septic tanks.
or running electrical or any other wires or plumbing.
Oh,
It's nice to know where those are at.
Greg, I only technically have around 7.5 acres, but now I live in a in a slightly wilderness area. So hang on a minute, let me try and find it. Let me find it. If you see my intros on any of my videos, you can tell where I'm at. It's wooded, but let's see if I can find it here. All right, let me swap this satellite view right quick, and I'll show you something here. All right, here we go. Screen share. All right, here it is, guys. This is my humble little establishment right here. This is my house. My nearest neighbor lives here, and then there's another house here that nobody's living in right now. And then these are all my neighbors as far as the deer and the squirrels and all that. So yeah, That's my neighborhood, guys, right there. So, for those of you that didn't know, it's in the woods. Whoa, I got the whole screen to myself. Hello.
Yeah, I'm hiding. um, Don's asking about the next version of the Alga laser. So they have, I believe it's the Delta that's also coming out, which, from what I understand, is the Alpha, but it's going to have like an offline controller and maybe a couple of extra other features with it. So that they already have it on their website, and so I would imagine we'd see it in the relatively near future. What they come out with after that, I don't know.
There you go, brother.
I'm pretty sure yours is longer right now. I recently had a trim up top and here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, he's gonna get Brandy on me is what he's gonna do. Because she come in there the other day, I was trimming up, and she was like, just kind of watching to see where I stopped as I come around. But yeah. Oh, wait a minute. I think. Wait a minute. Did Brandy send me a picture? What'd she send me a picture of? You expect me to share these? Seriously? Oh, I don't know who took these pictures, but they're terrible. Give me a second. I'll try to swap them over. Let me see here. You could have sent those by like Google or something. Made it a little easier. Instead, she sends pictures through text message. All right, but
all right, you sharing something here?
Buy the house across. Actually, Brian, there is a house just down from me that is for sale. But the other one is it's not for sale. It is it's just vacant right now. Let me see here. Download that one. I'll show you these. Download that one. Brandy's making fun of my shack, guys. Oh, but her big bushy fern's all in the way. All right, so here we go. All right, there it is in all its glory from back in the day, right there, guys.
Hold on, you can barely see that.
There it is, right there. Back in the day, that's the days of the dirt floor, right there, fellas. That oh Lord, that used to look rough. But that's it. That's it before all the renovations. I don't know when this picture was taken. Brandy didn't tell me, but it's been a minute. So there you go. That is why it's called the Clack Shack right there. That's the way it started out. Woo! I might save that. I'm gonna save all these Clack Shack pictures for my video that I'm gonna do.
All right, I found the earliest photo of my shop that I can find. So I will. You ready?
I think I've seen some of these. Hang on, let me get in there. All right, I'm back. Yeah. All right, what we got? Let's see what you got here.
You need to. Let's see here. We gotta do that.
I got you.
And this. All right. This, I believe, is the earliest.
Who's that little young guy right there in the far part of the screen?
Yeah. Okay. So that's me. And that's Carla's uncle. So I hired out the concrete work, and this is 24 by 30, and then there's double doors on that side. But then we did the rest ourselves. So.
Yeah, so yours is a lot more professionally built. A lot. Look, you actually framed the walls up, man.
Yeah, frame. LVL header across there. This is the annoying thing: is city code requires the headers to go one full bay beyond the support. So I had to put one across the entire thing because that's all we had extra. So
yours is like professionally manufactured. Mine was thrown together on $1,000 budget.
Let's see.
And it was a matter of necessity to keep my tractor out of the rain. Look at that.
The children did the marking of the blacktop there, and I dug the trench for electrical and data.
Wow.
I did not kill any trees in the digging of this trench.
Yeah, I've never killed any trees digging
Uh-huh,
trenches either.
uh-huh. And of course, northern climate, so it's all
See, look at that right there, man. I'm gonna tell you, that's like some show enough professional engineering you got going
right.
on there
So
now.
I did hire out to have the garage doors hung because that was worth it.
Well, see, the one advantage that I have here at the shack is I haven't hired out anything here so far.
And there was the first project.
It was an airplane.
Yeah.
Oh, good
Anyway,
lord.
there we go. There's my
See,
slideshow of.
see, yours is way more. That's why it's not Ventari's shack. It's Ventari's workshop because that's like a legit workshop. Uh,
Um, whoops, whoops,
you
whoops,
don't
whoops,
got.
whoops,
He want to
whoops.
know if you don't got
Yeah.
heated floors in that.
So this whole project came about because of the road in front of our house was being completely rebuilt. I mean, they went down, they took out sewer lines, they took out everything, and so when they were doing that, we wanted to re-pour our driveway. Well, then they were like, well, you're going to have a survey done. I'm like, well, I'm just going to re-pour what was there. They're like, well, you still got to have a survey done. Well, it turns out my old driveway, because this house was built back in late 1920s, the old driveway was actually over the property line, so I couldn't re-pour my old driveway where it was at. So we decided to take it off the back of the property, and so this was kind of crunch time. I wasn't planning on building a new garage. I ended up taking out some money to build a new garage, and so yeah, heated floors. I really wish I would have put the piping in when I poured it, but yeah, that cost wasn't on my radar because I wasn't sure how I was going to pay for everything else. So
Yeah. No, Victor, mine doesn't have to hold 2 feet of snow. Now it does get 3 or 4 inches of rain at times, but I've got a nice little pitch that helps get that, keep that from piling up. Uh, and it's actually survived through a couple of tornadoes here nearby, but hadn't took a direct hit yet. If it does, it's a goner. I can tell you now.
yeah,
There'll be there'll be tools and lasers strewn for 3 miles if you get
I
hit by a
uh,
tornado.
I kind of did a little overkill on mine as well. And when the building inspector came out after the framing, he was fairly impressed. So I took that as a good sign.
I had to call a few friends over to help me pick up this 14-foot barrel door and install it because I couldn't do it by myself. I tried, but I couldn't get it to balance on the bucket of the tractor. I was afraid I was going to drop my door that I paid like $1,000 for. So I had to call some friends. Uh, but yeah, we got it hung up though, and none of us had ever done it before. That was the fun part.
So interesting story related to all this. When I after starting to collect a lot of different machines and toys and things in my workshop, I was talking with my insurance agent and making sure that they'd all be covered if there was something. And we went through the inventory. He's like, yeah, no problem. You've got enough coverage to cover all these things. But when we started looking at the structure itself, because of all the insulation, the drywall, and everything else, he actually found out I was underinsured for the structure itself, which has to do because it's detached from the house. There's only a certain percentage of that gets covered without having an extra rider on that. So just a tip for everybody as you start working out your workshops and such. If you're doing a detached building, you might want to double check with your agent to make sure that not only is the equipment and the gear covered, but the as you add to it and insulate it and add AC and other things that's all covered as well. So
Well, good. One thing too to consider is when they come around and reassess your property values, uh, your taxes are gonna go up.
wow, you don't have to let them in the door.
No, they're actually, I think in our area they're actually doing a reevaluate on property taxes this year. They're flying it with planes.
Oh, they
Yeah,
yeah, they went through ours. Ours went up almost 25% this past year. So that
yeah. Well, luckily my mill shop is up on the hill, so they can't see where the sawmill is, and it's literally still a pole barn.
but
So
yeah, they're using a lot of flyover and satellite data, and they can map that to GIS and look at changes. So yeah, you do anything outside, they're going to notice it really quick.
Yep. But anyways, no, I don't do donuts. My wife actually bought some the other day, and it embarrassed me because I don't eat them. That's a superstitious thing. Well, anybody that hasn't, if you're here from my channel and you haven't already went over and subscribed and followed Steve, would you please do so? Like I said, it helps us out with all the stuff that we do, especially with these companies. Gives us a little more leverage as far as, because a lot of times when they want to send me something, I'm trying to make sure that Steve can vouch for my I guess you could say opinion of a product. Uh, because he looks at them with a little bit different perspective than I do at times. And I know we've both got a new 33 watt machine that's come out. I don't know if we can say for sure what kind it is, but we both have a new 33 watt machine. We have two different. I got two different cameras. You've got one of the same cameras
Hmm.
that we're fixing to try out, and Steve's got a Sane Smart CNC. Have you haven't released anything on it yet, have
I
you?
did I think I did a YouTube short, just the time lapse of the
Yeah.
build. But yeah, I've got a Sane Smart CNC that's kind of, so you've got two. The first one was a 4040,
Hmm.
and then you've got the 3030. I've got the big brother to the 3030 is
Yeah.
what they sent me. So
I mean, I'm not like bad talking them or nothing, but they sent me the 4040, and then after that sent me the 3030, and I'm like, we're going the wrong way, guys. Other way.
well, there's some nice differences between those two
Yeah.
that are definitely, it's still, even though it's smaller, there's some step up in some of the quality of the things with it. So
Yeah, it does pretty good work. This is a little. I cut this out earlier, and then I just took it with my big ink pad that I used for my stamp, and I just did it like that on an ink pad. So it worked out. I was gonna paint it, and I was like, wait a minute, that's a lot easier. Uh, I did mess up and readjust after a bit change accidentally, but other than that, it turned out real well. So still playing with it. But the one that you've got is built like this one, but it's bigger, right?
hmm
Does the one that you have, does the workpiece move or does the gantry move? I think the gantry moves on
no,
yours.
the gantry moves.
Let's see,
Yep.
this one's the work table moves, which
Yeah,
is different.
yeah, it's
But
a little different. Yep.
it looks like it was more made towards milling of aluminum and metal because it
Well,
didn't
and
come. It
that's
didn't
and
come with a spoil board or anything.
yeah, and that's the thing for some of the smaller ones. You inherently have more rigidity, and when you're getting into some of those non-ferrous metals, you definitely, they're less forgiving than even hardwood. So there's some advantages to having that. That's why you see with the Onefinity, they've got the machinist, which is kind of like a quarter of the size of mine, but it's super rigid for
Yeah.
working with metal and such. So
Yeah, I think this one was designed to work with metal, but I made a laser project out of it and made myself a spoil board that could be cut from quarter-inch MDF. That's actually my little template. I cut that out of eighth-inch underlayment, and then I exported the file over to the old longer over here and cut it out of some. I think it was 5 or 6 millimeter MDF, like quarter-inch thick. So now I've got my own little spoil board on there because I just knew I was going to drive one of those bits through that metal plate, and that was not going to be a good thing. So a bed slinger CNC. What?
yeah, it's where you're moving your bed around instead of the gantry.
It's pretty rigid. It's on. It does have linear rails and a screw, so it doesn't use belts. I mean, it's linear rails with screws, and it doesn't move. I'll give it that. So, well, hello, Sharon. Yeah, you're a little late. You may have to catch the replay. Steve, did you get the clamps? Did you get the clamps in? Clamps.
I did, Jack. Yes, and so I got to work on that spoil board and put them to good use. I've got some ideas with that, with a fixed corner to do a project on. So I'm definitely gonna put them to use shortly.
Oh. Yeah, I fell in love with this tape. I know you told me that you weren't a fan of it, but I don't know that you've tried this brand. You need to try it. I'm telling you, it's awesome.
You know how much CA glue and tape I've got?
It's just easier to me than the CA glue because with the CA glue, I am scared to death. I'm going to permanently attach it.
No, no, you gotta be careful. I, so I used to sell this stuff. I still have plenty of it.
Yeah. Well, the tape works well for me, and it's good for mounting like my little cutouts to stuff too, because then you can just take a. I found the best tool for removing the pieces from the bed space though is the chisel. It's a flat wood chisel. You can just pop that over
So
there.
now, have you been using it more on carving the top or actual pass-through cuts?
Both.
Because when you start doing the pass-through cuts, and the more you hit that tape, that's where you're going to really start learning that you don't like it.
I cut through a piece of it earlier. It didn't. It didn't do anything. See, right there, right here, right here.
Just saying,
Well,
the
I
more
didn't
you do
cut.
it, the more you do it, the more you're going to find
Actually,
why you don't like it.
I didn't cut through it. I cut right up to it. You can see right there where I cut right up to it when I cut that piece out. Luckily, I didn't even put a mark on my spoil board, so that was awesome. But
Well, Brian, the reason they don't is that ball screws, you're never going to get the same speed that you can with belts. And so you could do it, but it limits you in the speed you have. So that's one of the reasons that when people ask me about these combo machines, I'm not a huge fan of them unless it's your only option. Um, is that you're giving up something, and in this case, your acceleration and your top speed is going to be much less with a ball screw over the belts and pulleys. So they're a lot more rigid, and they can be more precise. There's less fiddling with them, but you give up that speed and acceleration with them.
yeah, yeah, Brian, I'm using the X Fasten, and so far I have correctly input my depths, and I haven't cut through any of it yet. So, so far, I'm not saying I won't. Uh, but yeah, it works pretty well. Do. See, somebody else had something else. Uh, yeah, one thing I will say, the screws, as far, I think that's a matter of torque versus speed. The screws have way more torque, but you sacrifice speed. And with the lasers, the belts have less torque, but much greater speeds. So yeah, I agree with you on that. It's just a matter of what you're trying to accomplish. Because the laser is really not pushing against anything. It just has to move the weight of the module. And some of these modules are pretty bulky, but they're still kind of light.
Well, and they're not. You can account for backlash and such of that, but they're not having to interact with the material itself. So
Yeah.
it's a lot easier for them to work with that. Here's a question. What's everyone's favorite finish for wood products?
Uh, it depends, but it's probably going to be made by Minwax. I have satin, flat, clear, uh, glossy. I have polyacrylic, polyurethane, shellac. Uh, I pretty much got anything you can think of, but basically I wind up using Minwax polyurethane brush on or spray can. The spray can's handy for laser stuff because you can just put a thin layer on there and be done. Yeah, Mark. Yeah, Mark. It is kind of like it is kind of like that because man, people get obsessed with it. But I'm not really like a diehard, but just I've had really good luck with Minwax, and that's what my local place carries. I do have some beeswax too.
So yeah, for food safe stuff, any one of these wax oil type things, in a food safe finish is great. For non-engraved items, I like these hard wax oils. Odie's oils is one. There's a few others. Um, Otherwise, I like either, if I'm spraying it on, something like this Halcyon Clear. type stuff. I tend to not go towards the glossy ones, but if I do, rattle can type thing like this. So
There we go. You got you got polyurethane. This is what I use on a lot of my engraving from this in the CNC stuff is satin, and then I got polyacrylic. And polyacrylic, it says clear gloss, but polyacrylic really doesn't get too glossy. I mean, it's just not. It's not. That's not what it does. But it just basically puts a little seal. So for like Christmas ornaments and stuff like that that have a lot of recesses, I usually go with these guys because that way I don't have to worry about when I'm trying to brush it on having those big runs and stuff like that. Sprays just a lot easier and quicker. And then I got sawhorses set up out front where I set everything, let it air out and dry. I do have some rub-on finishes and stuff like that, but typically with laser engraving and CNC work, those are going to be my go-tos. Those two rattle cans, as Steve calls them. Oh, look.
I don't know if I was professional, but it's one of those things that there's not necessarily one finish to rule them all. It's good to have some options based on what you're doing and such. And yeah, I tend to get away from some of the real. You lose some of maybe the protective value of using these hard wax foil type things, but they're easier to fix. You don't necessarily have to sand the whole thing down just because you get a chip or a scratch in it to refinish it. So again, it kind of depends on what you're going for. But like Clark said, when you're using engraved things, it's hard to beat a spray on finish. So.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're doing anything that you're going to be eating off of, mineral oil, beeswax, I have to get my stool out to reach all my food safe stuff because I keep it up on top shelf. But I've got some that are mineral oil based. I've got some that are beeswax based. One of them's like beeswax with I don't know if it's got lemon rind ground up in it or what, but it does a really good job for just a wipe on finish that you can actually eat off of. But typically, like I said, I don't do a lot of those. If it's going to be something people are going to be eating off of, like I said, I'll rub it down with some mineral oil and rock on.
I do find it kind of funny though. This is listed as a food safe finish on there,
Yeah.
and but you flip around to the back, it says "Do not eat, avoid ingestion or inhalation of this product."
Well, I mean, if you apply it to the wood, the parts per million is not going to be enough to kill you. But if you start, hitting that thing like a shot glass, you're going to have problems.
Yeah, I don't keep this in the kitchen.
Yeah, because it does kind of look like honey in that little bear bottle.
Well, yeah, it's wood honey.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
All right.
Wood honey.
But yeah, I can get some beeswax. I've actually got a nice new beehive over there. I got to do a video about too. I know, guys. Somebody sent me a beehive. Yeah, they did. Seriously. It's nice though. Let me show you. Hang on. See? Look at this guy. Look at this. This is just one of the panels. I got to put it together still. But this is actually what we refer to here as monkey pine, which is actually Chinese fir. And I know because it has that distinct smell and the distinct weight. But yeah, it's already got all the connection points are already done. It's already built. I'm actually considering either laser engraving my logo on them before I put them together, or maybe CNC in it. I don't know. Laser would be quicker. And it wouldn't take off as much of the beeswax because this thing's wax dipped. So they basically drop it in a big boiling mass of beeswax. And the bees love it. So I've got a whole kit that I've got to put together. And I got some bees that are in a shooting house at a hunting club that I got to go get. And I'm going to make this their home. So tied it all into lasers. And Norbert, they may be eating off your license plates. I mean, it's a plate. License plate.
Yeah, Mark. The hard wax oils are really durable, and you're right. They were made for floor finishes. It's just a lot of people consider them less durable than your hard polyurethane finishes, but they are Especially when combined with most woods that you'd use for flooring, they're very durable, but they're so much easier to repair, and that's the big thing too, is that you can just sand down a small spot, rub in some more of your wax oil, and let it cure off, and you're good to go. Versus sanding the whole thing down. So
Yeah, Marcus, I don't think he's going to be drinking his beer.
not that one. Maybe
Would you be?
maybe the actual honey ones.
Yeah, see,
So
we actually got two. I got like a gallon of honey out of that last extraction we did out of that building. And I've noticed, was it this morning? My daughter has consumed like one of the big jars. She's consumed about half of one of them,
oof.
and it's only been like a month. I was like, she's hitting that stuff like tequila or something. Like, I mean, she's got to be using it for a nightcap or something. But
Well,
so she's informed me that we got to have some more before it starts getting cold.
it's not the worst thing you can eat.
Oh no, it's good. She swears that it actually helps with her skin and complexion and
Oh
stuff.
yeah, it can. It's got a lot of benefits when you get a local non highly processed one. So
Oh no, this wasn't processed. It was
oh yeah, I know.
squished.
Straight off your
It was
stuff. Yeah.
squished through some cheesecloth and put in jars and then set in the freezer for a week to make sure there weren't anything living in it.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. Kind of going back to that question about how you reach out with people. I love going to our. I mean, it helps that we host one at the college I work at, but I love going to the farmers market and talking with some of these local farmers and such about what they're doing, and picking up product with developing those relationships with them just for the food I can get. But also, it's turned into a lot of them have been asking me about whether it's making one-off things, signs, or cutting boards for them, or talking about some promotional products. So
Yeah. Brian, I do not. The way I've been doing it is very low tech and has no tools. The Vivor, the company that sent me the beehive, are saying that they're gonna maybe like let me try out one of their honey extractors. But if not, if we don't have one of those, then I could video the old-fashioned way. But this is the tool that you use. You basically just squish it up and compress it to get all the honey out of the cells. It's very messy. You need to wear like tall gloves when you're doing it.
so Norbert, I do. Yeah, I'll finish both sides of any work I do. Just it looks better, and it also, if you finish one side and you leave the other open, especially in places like Minnesota that kind of have high humidity swings, you're going to see it in that the one side's absorbing more moisture than the other. So, not necessarily so noticeable on smaller things, but if you're doing like a bigger wall plaque out of a solid piece of wood, or if you're doing any sort of assembled piece and you don't finish off the whole thing, it's going to lead to some kind of variances in how that wood is reacting with the humidity in the air.
Yes, I agree. I've never heard of atomic finishes. Sawdust is an acquired taste, but it's actually less filling than some
It's
things.
hopefully not acquired just through poor air filtration and dust collection.
Hey, I probably eat about a pound of sawdust a week because it,
Yeah,
it
well,
it it accumulates on this when I'm in here working.
yeah. I mean, in all seriousness, sawdust is very unhealthy for us to breathe in, and you can develop various allergies and other breathing issues from it. So take care of yourselves, both with smoke, the vapors and the smoke created by the lasers. But if you're doing other woodworking, it is important to work on dust collection and some PPE for that.
Yeah, Brian. If it is a very destructive process. But the hive that we got the honey out of was from the wall of a house. It was about a 5 foot tall hive that was mostly brood, but when we're taking the hive out of the house, we separate. And I had a great video of it, but this little SD card right here. It failed the first time on me with the B video, but we separate the capped honey from the brood and everything else. And so this wasn't like comb that I could just give back to the bees. Abby, my daughter, actually takes the wax. We take basically and just ball it up and squeeze it and compress it until all the honey comes out. And then you put it in a bucket, let it sit. You'll have a little bit more come out of it. Then you take the wax out, put it in another bucket, and then dump the honey over in there. But then we take, and I've got a fish cooker, and you take the honey, the wax, put it in the fish cooker and with a little bit of water, bring it up to a boil, and it will basically form a cake on top of the water when it cools. Then you skim off the impurities, do it again, do that a couple of times until you get it down, and then she winds up taking it inside and straining it inside the house. And she uses the beeswax to make chapstick and candles. She takes and adds some kind of essential oils and what was it? Some other kind of oil. Was it coconut oil or some kind of oil to slow the burn rate of the beeswax down, because beeswax actually has a really high burn rate. So you have to add things to it to slow it down so the candle doesn't just like woof up in smoke. But I've been trying to get Abby to let me do some videos of all that process, but we'll see how that goes. But it's pretty neat.
So, Dula, sounds like a new person here as well. Welcome to the channel. Yeah, it's a good thing to remind people of things not to cut. And there's a few that are absolutely hazardous because of it's both hazardous to yourself as far as inhaling it, but also hazardous to the machine because there's corrosive. And that's going to be things like PVC, really anything with vinyl in it. That emits chlorine gas, and it will do a number on your lungs. It'll do a number on your laser. ABS is another one. It emits cyanide gas, and it doesn't cut very well. And so, again, that's hazardous to yourself. And so, and even if you're, I hear a lot of people say, well, but I'm venting it outside. Hey, it's still going outside. There's people and things outside. If you were doing this as a business, and the EPA or your local city found out you're doing that, they would shut you down as from that. But there are others that are just kind of not good to cut. We talk about acrylic a lot. Polycarbonate or Lexan does not cut very well. That's something that you definitely need to use a CNC router for. It absorbs the light too easily, and it just kind of it discolors and it'll catch fire. HDPE plastic, it just kind of melts. It doesn't really cut very well. Polystyrene foam is more likely to catch on fire than cut, so it's not really great. Fiberglass also, because of the resins and such, it's not going to cut very well, and those resins can have some really bad fumes with them. And then also like carbon fiber, coated carbon fiber. Again, it's got some various resins in there. You can get some noxious fumes out of that. So those are kind of the top ones I try to steer people away from. It's definitely more of your synthetics and your plastics. But acrylic, as long as it's the right color with diodes, or if you're using a CO2, is generally fine to cut. But you're going to want to vent that because the fumes do not smell good and such. MDF is safe, although you want to try to find one with lower formaldehyde content if possible, because that can not be good when burning, but you can cut it. It also just tends to be harder to cut as well. Certain woods that if they're like a more oily type, they're probably not going to cut as well, and they can also catch fire. So those are things to watch out for. They're not necessarily dangerous from a chemical standpoint, but they're not necessarily going to cut very well either. So there are just some things that they're safer to cut, but you might want to watch out because they could either catch on fire or have some side effects as well.
I still say unprocessed wood's the best approach.
Oh yeah.
We've been burning it in to heat our houses for years. So as long as you vented a little bit, it's not like treated lumber or anything, you should be good. So I stick mostly with wood, like I said, and then coated stuff, and a lot of the coating too. I know that anodized stuff. You don't really want to be breathing that. You want to vent that stuff outside, keep it out of your shop. But some of the, like I said, I try to avoid plastics and so forth at all costs.
Yeah.
Another medium that I didn't know would engrave well is antler ivory. I found that out.
How does that smell?
Not good.
Yeah,
Not
that's
good. I mean, you're gonna
kind
want to
of.
vent it, but it's almost like burning fingernails.
Yeah, I was gonna say. That's just exactly what I was gonna say. If you've ever had I had a hematoma underneath the fingernail, and they had to use a cottering iron to relieve it. Oh man, that was just
That's about the same smell.
yeah.
It's different than leather, but it's the leather and it are like right up there as far as the things that you don't want to do in the house. But anyway,
No.
yes, always be prepared to put out a fire. Uh, I have like my little spritzer, and then I have stage two, which is the little like basically aerosol hairspray looking can. Then I have actual kitchen fire extinguisher by the door, and then outside the door I have a water hose. So, so have your plan, in place.
Yeah, Mark brings up a good point. Galvanized metal. For some people, they're looking at building their enclosures or having like a spoil board underneath there. Galvanized is not fun. You don't want to burn that. It's the same as you don't want to weld it without proper protection and removing that galvanization. So just avoid it with the lasers. There's no reason to have galvanized metal around your lasers, really.
I used
Um,
one for a while, but it was vented.
Well, and there's a lot of people that use different marking sprays, and one of them is the cold galvanizing spray. Again, you got that zinc in there, and it's
No.
not worth it to your health. There are other options for that, whether it's the marking spray or other types of paint. So yeah, I try to stay away from anything that's super toxic as much as I can.
Yeah, vent, and just stick with wood. Like I said. Well, good night, Jim. I hope your shot continues to do good. Mine's, as you can tell by the fact that I'm getting out of my chair, mine's not doing so well.
Please don't cut music record.
Hey, did you see the video? Did you see the video of that chick that did it like in her kitchen?
I don't. I was that the one
There's,
I sent you that it was on the.
I think you did send it to me,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like she was doing it with like no enclosure or nothing. She was
No
just like,
enclosure in the kitchen. I'm just like,
and
oh
and
my gosh.
and I kept waiting. I was like, is this gonna be like one of those meth labs that went wrong where she like falls out in the middle of the video or something? But yeah, that was mm,
Yeah, you
because
want to do those. Those records look cool, but that's a good case for a CNC router. Get a fine bit, you can cut those things out all you want with that.
yep. But yeah, I saw that video. I mean, she did a good job on it, but I was like, man, I don't know. I don't know that would be a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, Mark, if someone did that to my old 1980s Smurf record, I would be livid. Just absolutely livid.
Yeah, it was a record-breaking video. Good. That was a good one. That's I hang on. There you go. There you go. Greg gets the old drum
Yes,
roll. That was a good one.
yes, record breaking video.
But
But no,
anyway,
I mean, if you can get a similar look by using black acrylic, and I know it's not a record, but by the time a lot of these people cut those out, they've lost all. You can make a fake label, you can stick it on there, so you can still do this with your diode lasers or a CO2 laser, or if that's really the thing you want to get into, invest in a small CNC. I mean, those records would fit on that 4040, right?
they'll fit on the 3030. It's a 12 inch. What
There you,
most of
there
the
you
way
go.
records? How big are the records? It's been a minute since I held one. I think the biggest ones are like what 16 maybe.
Yeah, you were more of an 8-track guy, weren't you?
No, we had records. I just wasn't allowed to touch them because they scratched easy. I had a cassette tape, man. I had a Walkman. What are you talking about, dude?
So I couldn't afford a Walkman. I had whatever the generic.
Yeah, the
Um,
GE, the GE model.
yeah, I was trying to remember where they were. Sharon, so if you want the Monport air purifier to work okay, sure, it'll work okay, but you're still going to smell. It's going to filter out the heavy particulate. It's going to take it down a notch, but you're still going to smell it. Unfortunately, if you really want to run it inside without venting outside, you got to get these BOFA filters that they're going to cost you about $1,500 on up, and then your filters sets are going to cost you somewhere around, probably for a full set, $600 to $900, depending on which ones you're going with on up. It's not cheap to filter out the type of VOCs and particulate that our lasers are putting out, unfortunately. So
yeah, because if it's releasing acids and stuff like that, I mean, you got to have the organic filters in there, and it's I mean, it would be very, very complex to try to design a filter that can filter out everything.
yeah.
So,
But no, I'll actually have a video eventually talking about the Monport air purifier. I'm also trying to get my hands on an X-Tool one, and I've got the ComGrow one, because being in the northern state as I am, not
Yep.
dumping all this air out into the cold winter would be ideal. So I want to talk about them, but my experience with the Monport one, it does cut it down, but I had it hooked up to my wooden enclosure with the X-Tool D1 20 watt Pro, and I was just running an Engrave, and after about 10 minutes I was like, nah, it's not filtering everything out. So, and that wasn't even the smokiest stuff I could throw at it. So
yeah, they shouldn't call them a purifier. They should call them like a reducer.
yeah, something.
Because I mean, the ComGrow one, I mean, it helps. It's better than nothing, but it's you can still smell it. But it's a little different when you're talking about smoke versus like sawdust. Sawdust is easy to filter out of the air. Smoke and fumes and chemicals that are being released, not so much.
Yeah, I think a lot of these were designed more around capturing like soldering irons, little puffs of smoke here and there, not a constant that we get from our lasers. So
Yeah. All right, guys. Questions, comments, concern? First, eight track was. Yeah, like I said, I 8-tracks were. I mean, we still had them in some of the cars we had, but I was more along the lines of cassette tapes. That was the big thing with us. Me and my wife was talking about the other day where we had our, you had the cassette tape that you slide in there, and it had the wire that came out and plugged into your
Discman?
your Discman or whatever, or either, and then later on, you could actually plug it into that little MP3 player that was like this, that big, that held like 12 songs.
Your Microsoft Zune.
Yeah, yeah. The technology of these vehicles today is just crazy compared to what we grew up with.
Yep. Yeah, I was I was getting the itch to replace my vehicle, so instead I just put in a new modern head unit for my radio. So
Well, my daughter's car blew up, so she had to go buy a new one. So she was really sad, but now she's happy because she has all the technological advancements in her car. But anyway, guys, if you hadn't already found it, if you're not already a member, go. Stand by.
go yawn and go to bed.
Go check out our Facebook group, Laser Engraving Community. That's exactly the way it's spelled on Facebook. Steve and I, and a lot of the guys that are in here tonight, Brian, Norbert, Chris, I think Mark's in there. There's a whole bunch of us that are in that group, and like I said, if you ever have any questions or just want to show off some of the stuff that you've done to like-minded folks, it's a good place to do that. We like sharing, and we like helping each other out and giving information. So if that's something you're into, go hit the button to join that group on Facebook. And while you're on Facebook, make sure you've subscribed or followed mine and Steve's Facebook page as well. I still haven't got my Facebook page up to snuff yet. I'm still growing it. But it's getting there. We're making progress. It's slow because I never really used it for to create content. It was more or less just to sell stuff, and so it's got a lot of growing to do. But yeah, well, my new truck luckily has a backup camera. Those those things, that was one of the best inventions they came out with recently.
Yeah, my new head end with the radio and everything. It came with the camera and it could do it, but I didn't want to run that wire, so
Yeah.
I left the camera out. So, but anyway, yeah, thanks everyone for being here tonight. And if you haven't followed either one of us, definitely go do that. We've definitely got a number of videos coming out, both in lasers and CNCs and accessories and other projects. And I don't know about you, but I've already got my wheels spinning about fall and Christmas project ideas and such. So I tend to share those out, and depending on the file, I'll give them away in the group or on the video, or if it's maybe a little more involved, we throw it up on Etsy just to kind of help augment things. But I'm sure there'll be lots of good content coming up in these next few weeks and months. But otherwise, just appreciate having you here, and we'll be catching you again next week.
Yep, and like I said, stay tuned for some more content with the baby CNCs, like the little brother, and then the not so little brother. But yeah, I'm gonna be trying to create some ornaments and some stuff like that for Christmas as well. I know me and Steve both have been kind of discussing, holidays are coming and everybody's wanting to know what to make and some easy, simple projects. So hopefully the two of us can both have our own videos coming out within the next couple of weeks. But I've got a lot of backlog I've got to get caught up on. But yeah, stay tuned, guys, and see y'all next week. Same place, same time, and all that good stuff. And good to see you, Brian. Good to see you, Brian. Glad you showed up, because you never know whether it's going to be a fun night or not. But Brian shows up. It always is.
My mom always said life was like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
But y'all have a good one. See ya.